So my name's Rich. I head up our customer team here at Thrive Mental Wellbeing. For those of you that are joining as existing customers, we welcome you. It's a really interesting topic. I think we can all relate to stress. And certainly we'll have our own individual experience of what it manifests like for us as individuals. And I'm delighted to be joined by Penny. Penny, do you want to give yourself a quick intro?
Yeah, thank you, Rich. So this is Penny, and I am a person-centered therapist at Thrive. My background is person-centered, and I specialize in trauma work using EMDR to help dealing with the traumatic events. Yeah, nice to be here.
Fantastic. So we'll crack on. I'll give you a little bit of a flavor because before we tuck into the subject matter, just want to make sure that we sort of make aware who we are as an organization, because some of you will be new to these webinars, and some of you will not know about what we do as an organization. So essentially, we are here to improve people's mental health. As an organization, we're very passionate about empowering people to take charge of their mental health. And we want to remove some of those traditional barriers that exist out there, whether that is accessing services to stigma, whether that is about not having resources and services available to you. We are here as Thrive to make those accessible and to provide support that will help you to improve those symptoms and recover. So in amongst the content that we'll talk about today, which will be focused on stress and resilience, we do provide a digitally enabled mental health service, which is accessed through the Thrive app. For those of you that will be existing customers, you'll be familiar with the content we provide. For those of you who are less familiar, we essentially have the best of traditional resources and techniques that are evidence-based to help you to improve symptoms that might be caused by mental health challenges. Commonly anxiety and depression, but we encounter within our therapy service a wide range of presentations and conditions that people come to us with. So we'll speak to you a little bit about the techniques within the app that can help to tackle some of the challenges that come about as stress. But first and foremost, we're going to introduce the topics that we're going to cover, and Penny is going to help unpack with me in the webinar. So I'll get these up on screen and then we'll have a quick chat about them. Just to note, there will be some questions that pop up. I can see a few that are coming in now. We'll do our best to tackle these, but we'll try and leave some space at the end just to sort of sweep up things if we don't get to everybody in the flow of things. Ella, I can see, is answering already in the comments. Yes, you'll get your recording. But yeah, feel free to pop some comments in there, get the chat going, and we'll do our best to engage with those, but we'll try and pick them up at the end of the session. So what are we going to talk about? So we're going to talk about some of, I guess, the physiological impacts, some of the psychological impacts of stress. We'll unpack a little bit about, I guess, contextualizing this discussion in terms of the prevalence of some of these issues in society, in the workforce. Many of you will work for employers, and we are focusing some of the discussion today on some of those things that employers can consider. We'll talk about the early warning signs, what might be some of those patterns that you might want to pay attention to, maybe in yourself or maybe in colleagues that you see around you, maybe family members. And then we'll talk about some of the tools, some of the practical tools that we can use to regulate stress in the moment. And then maybe step back a little bit and think about it from the lens of the employer. Hear a lot about psychologically safe workplaces. What does that actually mean in practice? What are some things that you can consider? And then we'll talk a little bit about the tools that exist within the Thrive service that can help you manage stress and build resilience. So in terms of the prevalence of these issues, I mean, you know, they're called common mental health conditions. To point out, stress is not a mental health condition, but obviously long periods of stress, chronic stress can lead to a deterioration in your mental health. This particular report, the burnout report, is from Mental Health UK. Couple of stats that I wanted to pick out whilst we were sort of preparing for this webinar. So nearly 35% of adults that were surveyed, it was 4,400 adults that were surveyed as part of this YouGov poll. 35%, or there or thereabouts, of adults experiencing high or extreme levels of pressure, and they answered always or often in the last year. So you can see that's a really decent proportion of people. They're experiencing high levels of stress, and we'll unpack what that can mean. 1 in 5 needing time off work due to poor mental health caused by stress. That tracks broadly in line with what it was the previous year. But we know that there'll be many people here within perhaps are wearing hats, which might be wellbeing leads, HR, etc. It has a real impact on the workforce. And then interestingly, from a generational perspective as well, there's loads of interesting stats in this report, but from a generational perspective, an increase in the proportion of those 18 to 24, 25 to 34, 35 to 44, I'm just about in that last bracket, who needed time off in the past year, but a decrease of these individuals who are slightly more advanced in their career. And then the final bullet point on this slide, a decrease in people's willingness to speak to their line manager in these younger cohorts of individuals from the previous year, which is an interesting thing to understand what that might be about. And one of the benefits that we have as a service is that we are discreet, we are confidential, and you don't need to take that step towards your line manager. As good a step as that is to sort of declare how you're feeling and make that known to somebody within the organization. Final stats-based page. So the HSE report, Health and Safety Exec, really good resource in terms of data. Sure many of you are familiar with this. So nearly 1 million workers suffering from work-related stress, depression or anxiety. So 1 million reported. In terms of sectors, actually had a session with a lot of the London boroughs yesterday, and public administration was actually the highest, and defence, the highest self-reported rates of stress. That was followed by healthcare and education. So interesting to see how that falls in terms of self-reported rates of stress and prevalence within different sectors, and 22 million working days lost due to work-related stress, depression, or anxiety. So we know this is a big issue for individuals, for their own personal lived experience of what stress can mean for people. But we know that this is a big impact on employers and a big impact on the economy as a whole. So this is where we start to kick over to your side of things, I think, Penny, and we start getting participation. So yeah.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, thank you for this presentation about the stats, and that shows, that stress is one of the common challenges in the workplace, and also from our personal level, like we got stressed not only from work, right, from other things as well. But I will drop the first question: how often do you feel stressed at work? And yeah, here is the poll. Either it's rarely, you can scan the QR code to join, and we can see the results afterwards. Yeah, rarely is rarely, or sometimes, or often, or almost every day. And just do just do that kind of self-checking, when you see this question, and how quick can you reflect? Like, do you know the answer? Do you need a long time to think, oh, am I stressed? I'm not. Yeah. And that depends on the awareness level. And well, we will talk about that later on. And so let's see. I can see the majority of the answer is false sometimes, which is not bad. Yeah. Glad to see that sometimes, at least not most every day, which is, yeah. good. But we can see rarely it's only 3%.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because that's a fact. Like we will feel stress at work because there's no way to eliminate it. And that's why we are here. We learn how to deal with them. So we have healthy tools. Later on, we will introduce, and we will also introduce how the organization can help, can do from their side, and then to help with the employees. Okay, yeah, I think that's the result. Yeah, sometimes it's good. So let's explore more about what does happen when our bodies experience stress, like what happening in our brain. So usually when we experience stress or a threat, we will activate the response called fight, flight, or freeze. I'm sure people are familiar with that, right? But why is that? So because it has a function, it helps us to survive in the danger place. Although in the modern society, you're not going to be chased by a cheetah or lion, that kind of danger. But the workplace stress or difficult conversation or meetings, that one can be identified as danger. And here, this is the first part of our brain called amygdala, which function as an alarm system. So when it detects some danger or some threats, it will ring, and then our body will release some hormones to help us, which is adrenaline or cortisol, and that help us to react quickly, so you can run faster, for example. And that means our body prepare for survival, right? So we can experience that heart rate increases. We can notice we are breathing quite rapidly, our muscle tense, and that's all the preparation for us to survive. And after that, the next one is the prefrontal cortex, which is our thinking brain. So it's responsible for decision making, making plans, or think, problem solving. And if that part is under stress, and the ability of it just reduce. So that's why you cannot think clearly under a huge amount of stress. And then the next one is a hippocampus, which is the really important part to learn and for our memory. And think about if you are under long-term or chronic stress, and the function of that will affect it. And then you cannot remember things. You found yourself, or what happened maybe last week or yesterday, I have no idea. So that can be a sign for you to know, oh, maybe I'm under too much stress. Yeah, so the whole thing, it's not about ability. It's not, you are not as good as other people, because we don't know how other people handle those things. And we can only maybe, see from the outside, oh, other employees are quite good. My colleagues say they are handling quite good. Why I cannot do this? So you blame yourself. And instead, so firstly you're stressed, and then you blame yourself and you feel more stressed. Yeah, because you feel I'm not as good as other people. But just remember and remind yourself, it is not an ability issue. It's a biological response. Everyone has that. Yeah, that's from the from brain. How does that work? Yes. Okay. So next one, when we know this, how does that function? And we can see the impact from our physical or psychological, or from after that is on the teams and the organizations, right? So from psychological, we feel anxious, we worry about things, we feel more irritated, difficult to concentrate, because the problem-solving brain that so chain switch from thinking mode to survival mode, right? And so you reduce motivation, potential burnout if you don't do anything about that, and also increase the risk of depression because you feel down about yourself. Yeah. And also the physical side, you will have headaches, you will suffer from sleep problems, you muscle intense, and then you will feel your shoulder is like quite stiff after a work day, and some digestive issues as well. And you might find yourself kind of easy to catch a cold, something like that. Yeah, and fatigue as well. And so imagine when your employees suffer from those, right? So of course, their ability, their performance will be affected. They will feel, less collaborate with people and less resilient with the communication. They will feel more anxious about it, and then just lower creativity and cannot show up to the workplace and higher staff turnover. And yeah, just the whole team will have less productivity. So that's the impact from having a stress. That's why we need to deal with that. But how to, right? Like, how can you be aware of it and how to help yourself to be aware of it? Yeah.
Just think one thing to add, Penny, that probably well, the impact of sleep as well. Like there's this sort of bi-directional relationship between sleep and mental health. If you're not sleeping well, that can impact your mental health. If your mental health's impacted, it can impact your sleep. And I think, yeah, that's, stress. There's lots of these things that you could experience. And I think if we're all honest, we've probably experienced some of these things in reactions to how our bodies feel. But sleep, as I understand it, is what we see quite a lot as a knock-on consequence in the therapy service. People
Yeah.
that are struggling.
Yeah, definitely. Because sleep itself is a process to recharge from the daily activity. And if you didn't get chance to recharge yourself, it's like your batteries are constantly on the, alert red level. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's concerning. Yeah. Okay. So next page. Okay. So the important thing is to have that awareness. And this is the stress performance curve, which we can see it's not like the more stress you have, the more the top performance you have, right? So if you don't have any stress, that's also not good because we will have like a lack of motivation to do things. So we will need to have right amount of stress, not too much, not too little. Because too much stress, you will feel overload, you will feel exhaustion, you will feel anxiety, panic, or anger, and then eventually you will have breakdown because it's just too much for you. So we need to build that awareness first. And next one.
But just before we move on, Penny, I just want to pick up the comment in the chat around exercise. So we had this yesterday in the discussion that was having, and there was several people that sort of commented about the role of exercise in reducing stress and just improving mental health. I think I discussed this with Andreas. Andreas, for those people that don't know who we're talking about, is our CEO. He's a psychiatrist. And that role of exercise in completing the stress cycle. So if the alarm bells are going off for whatever reason,
Mm-hmm.
and actually moving your body and putting that adrenaline and cortisol to use, the discussion was kind of like, is that a we know that there's certain biological things going on there, but is that sort of an evolutionary thing that suggests I'm running away from the danger? So therefore you actually maybe relax yourself a little bit, like back in the day, where does this come from? If I get up and move, yeah, that's putting my body to good use. So I think, I'll definitely talk about or agree with the merits of exercise as one of the tools that you can use to tackle this.
Yeah, definitely. Because when you exercise, your brain relieve the one hormone called dopamine. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's related to the happiness that you can feel. So usually after exercise, you will feel better, and that's function for a distraction from whatever you are
Mm,
focusing on, because that's the stressor. So
mm,
we cannot remove ourselves from that. Yeah.
mm.
Well, let's continue. So we will touch that later on as well.
Yeah.
Okay, so to have that awareness, we need to learn how to recognize the early warning signs. Emotional signs, you might feel um, overwhelmed, I feel flat, I'm more irritable than usual. Like, oh, this doesn't feel like me. I snap out for little thing which I don't usually do, and you will feel increased worry, and you kind of because you want to protect yourself, so you usually feel detached, like detached from things which you either need to feel, engaged, but no, you're not. And then cognitive science is you cannot concentrate, you forget more things, and you cannot control your thoughts. You feel that it's rapidly repeat in your mind. And then after that is yeah, you cannot sleep well, or you will withdraw from colleagues. Either you don't want to do the task, you procrastination, increase mistake. So that's the performance will be affected. And then, like we said before, sleep disturbance, definitely, because if your brain is not in a peaceful place, or we didn't have the right tool to make it slow down, and of course our sleep will be disturbed. Yeah, and then if the sleep you cannot recover, you will have headache, right? Because our brain is not a machine, it is a brain. It needs those things to recover. And of course, muscle and fatigue. So those are the warning signs which we need to pay attention to. That's a way to increase our awareness.
Really. I'm going to slide in one metaphor that I'm stealing again from Andreas here. I think it was him that said it. Anyway, so thinking about a car and a car engine, if sometimes it's appropriate that in the car you rev the engine to get away quickly. Let's say something's coming towards you in traffic or whatever that may be. It's appropriate to go away quickly, rev the engine. But if you're sat on the driveway in neutral with the car revving for 10 minutes, you're going to stress the engine out. So if that stress is persistent and it's not, it's firing all the time, the stress response, that's where we might have a challenge. But to your earlier point, Penny, there's times where obvious it's relevant to have a degree of stress to do anything. We do need something there. So I'm not advocating that you should have a completely stress-free life experience, which, as you've said, isn't realistic. You're going to have to deal with some levels of stress. It's just sometimes it's a nice visual for some people, hopefully, to resonate with.
Yeah. So let's have a workplace stress self-check. So this is the scale from 0 to 3. 0 is never, 3 is almost always. And then you calculate the scores, and I will tell you what does that mean, like which level are you in the stress self-check, like how much stress are you experiencing. So reflect on the past 2 weeks. Do you feel mentally or emotionally exhausted after the workday? Do you find it harder? Yeah, 4. I saw people doing that. Well, I guess that's 3 then. Yeah,
Okay.
you find it hard to concentrate or stay focused on task. Yeah, 3. Okay, I see 10 as well. I feel pressure to continue working even when I need a break. Yeah, and that's a really big red
Mm,
sign, red flag. Yeah, you need a break, you take it. Small work problems feel more overwhelming than usual. Yeah. You struggle to disconnect from work during evenings or weekends. Okay. Okay. So after 5 questions, you can count them, add them together, so you have a sum score. Right. Yeah. So everyone got the score? Yeah. I saw
Yeah,
50.
carry on.
Okay, so if you have it from 0 to 4, that means good. Your stress level is currently manageable. If you got it from 5 to 8, that means moderate. Yeah. If you got from 9 to 12, that means you have a high level of stress. And then glad you're here. So later on, we will teach you how to do it, and you can take away from those things. Yeah. So we can follow next one. And the way to see our stress, we can use this metaphor like stress bucket. Everyone has different size of it. Someone is bigger, someone is smaller. We have different stressors like those clouds. Some people are more bothered by the workplace performance, or some people are more bothered by the family life, personal life, or friendship. Those double deadlines, exams. Those are our resources to add on our stress. So one of those stresses, just add a little level of the water and just move on that tap. That's the important thing, because we cannot control what coming into our bucket, but we can learn to let it out. And that's one of the reasons we are here. I will introduce some tools for everyone to take away from it and use it in your daily life. Okay, so the first one is the basic, which is breathing exercise. And I want to invite everyone to do it with me if you are in a private or comfortable environment. So you can start breathing through nose and exhale through mouth. Yeah, so this is the first step. And if you want to do a level up version, you can cross your hand like this, or over your shoulder or over your arms. Depends on which position is more comfortable for you. So this is called butterfly hug. Yeah, so you can tap yourself from side to side. And if you are around people and you don't want to do this, it's totally fine. You can tap your laps, just make it. You don't want to be so visible. Yeah, tap your lap. It's the same. So just remember, tap from side to side, because from research, this bilateral movement can distract our brain and also ground ourselves. So if you can just focus and breathe, inhale for 4 seconds, exhale through mouth. One more time, breathe in and breathe out. Breathe in and breathe out. Yeah. Now just move your shoulders, just if it's feel tense, then move your head, neck around, and just notice, do you feel differently? Is there any little tiny changes after the exercise? Yeah, because usually we don't need a big change. It's like we said before, exercise, right? We don't need a huge amount of I need to do this, I need to do that at the same time. No, we can start small, which that's why I put this at first. Just don't forget to breathe. when you're in a stress environment or situation, people do forget.
Mm.
So have this, it's like, it's not magical, right? It's just tool, but you are the one. Think about if you're learning how to drive, you know the theory, you know this, why it works, because it release our nervous system, right? And can reduce the psychological arousal. Yeah, that's the logic behind. But it's like even though you know how to drive, you pass the theory test, you still need to pass the practical test, right? So it might sound simple, but if you do it if you practice it daily, and you will just train your body to be more prepared for the uncertainty, potential stress, which we will have in modern society. Yeah. So that's the first one. Hope everyone enjoyed it. Yeah. And the second one called grounding techniques, which is quite famous, I believe. It's called 5-4-3-2-1 technique, which is level up techniques based on the breathing. Because when you do those, you still focus on your breathing. Yeah. And this helps you from rumination to stay in the present, because it kind of asks you to do all 5 things you see. So you are looking for them, you are seeking them, then that mood shaped your attention. 5 things you see, 4 things you feel, 3 things you hear, 2 things you smell, and 1 thing you taste. So if you have water, just we can drink together. Cheers.
I was wondering whether that was a water or a hot drink. Cheers.
Yeah. So this is another grounding techniques, and the next one, it require more because it comes to kind of our cognitive practice. Yes. So this one called stop is TOPP. And that means when things happen, just stop and step back. Don't act immediately. Buy yourself some time, and you can just like pause. For example, if you got email, if you got people ask you something that you don't know the answer, just buy yourself some time. And that's acceptable. And it's the good way to do, because you don't want to give a wrong answer instead of, oh, sorry, I just need to double check. Yeah. So just remember, you can buy yourself some time. You can pause. And that's always the first step. And the second one is take a breath. Yeah. Like we did before. You notice your breathing and breathe out. Sounds easy, but that small changes can reduce your hormones that calm down your nervous system. And next step is observe, like talk to yourself in a logical way or calm down way. Like, what am I thinking or feeling? That's self-check. What are the words my mind is saying? What kind of emotions I'm feeling? Am I feeling angry? Why am I feeling angry? Because I feel not respected. Some people step on my boundary. Yeah, and they are valid reason to feel angry, right? So just have that self-checking with yourself. And then later on, just challenging, like, are they facts or opinions? Because you have your thoughts, right? But sometimes maybe people don't mean that, but we don't know. We just put all of them on the table and let's look at them. Yeah. So after that, you are able to pull back and put in some perspective, like how other people would see it, how my friend would see it. Or if it happened to my friend, what advice would I give to them? Yeah, and what's the helicopter view, so I can see the whole picture other than put yourself in that hot difficult moment. And the last one is practice what works. Do what is the most helpful thing. Either do the butterfly top hug like we did before. Do you find that helpful? Just do it, and what just make the best option for you. And just because you don't want to be yourself's enemy, right? You want to take care of yourself. So that's the last step. Just practice what works on your daily basis and calm down. And we can review the questions later on when we go through this practice.
Thinking, Penny, so the practice what works bit. So that kind of these different steps you can take to sort of calm the nervous system down.
Yes.
But I guess also maybe the act of doing, so whatever that is actually stressing you, what I actually took from what will be effective and appropriate is actually taking some action of the thing that's bothering you. So whether that's a work related thing, so yes, do these things, but actually some degree of alleviating stress is going to be doing a little bit of maybe what you need to do alongside that. So I think this model is talking more about what works from a calming yourself down, buy yourself time measure. But I guess actually doing the thing that might be causing you some stress as well is an important thing to.
Yeah, that's why like practice what works for you. Yeah, because we just function differently and we cannot say, oh, this works for you, it must work for you. No, we need to find that balance.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah. So those three tools are the individual level that you can take from it and practice it. That's your responsibility to use them to do the self-care. And now let's move to the what can either leaders or organization level, what can they do? And one is the important thing is the psychological safe place. The research from organizational psychology shows that the team who has higher level of psychological safe, it function more, performs better, because they are free to ask questions. They're not afraid of being criticized, being judged. And they are free to ask for help when they need help. Yeah, they don't need to be afraid of, oh, how other people will see me. Will they see me incompetent? Yeah, those are the concerns which stop you from asking for help. And if you make mistakes, you don't have that concerns about admitting it, because the leaders, they can see it constructively other than, oh, you're fired. No. Yeah. And to have that safe place that you are open to share ideas. You don't need to be cautious. You don't need to feel, is this a dumb idea? Will people laugh at me? No. So creating this safe place in workplace is really important. And how to promote it, like I mentioned it a little bit, but leaders, that you need to be a good model because people look at you, right? So you need to model the openness about the feelings, about the stress, and acknowledge challenges and uncertainties. It's not brush over the blanket or the rug. It's not something you don't see it will disappear. But instead, if we all acknowledge them, everyone's on the same page, that we will feel safe. And you can show genuine care, check-ins with each other, with your team members, and about the workload and their well-being. And also you can normalize asking for support. You can invite their opinions and perspective. It's not like asking for support is not something weak. It's not, but it's the opposite. It's like, okay, I need support and I asked for it, I got it. That's the good circle rather than the vicious circle. I don't ask, I feel more stressed. Made some mistakes, got found out. Yeah, that's the vicious circle. And for the mistakes, for example, yeah, we just respond constructively, avoid blame cultures, focus on learning rather than blaming. And we recognize the effort the employees put and also the progress they made if possible.
I think interesting point you made there, Penny, about the research around higher performing teams and more psychologically safe environments. Because I mean, it's still a challenge, isn't it? Talk about leaders, role modeling. Some environments, some working environments, the company culture will define to a degree some people's openness to do that, and it's not always easy, even though the benefits are there. So I'm a leader of a team. I like to think I'm open, but you're always riding a balance of openness and vulnerability versus have you got your stuff together? Can I be confident in this person? So yeah, I think, yeah, it's definitely the right thing to do, but it's definitely a balance to tread.
Yeah, definitely. And that requires a lot of self-confidence about your ability and also the trust in between that relationship between you and your team members. And we need to build that trust. So it's not so everyone doesn't feel threat, right? They feel even the leaders that they feel okay because we're human being, right? And we can admit, oh, this is quite stressful. And then people will feel, oh, we are in the same boat. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So after what I just said, is there any one small change you individually or your team as a leader or organization as the whole company could take or make to support well-being at work? Yeah, you can scan the code and we can see your answers on the wall. Is that correct?
Hopefully. Yeah, yeah. It should come into a bit of a word cloud. It's all
Okay.
anonymous. It's all anonymous, everyone. So don't worry about that. So yeah. Or if you prefer, put it in the chat. Put it in the chat. We'll try and monitor both.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
need to hear people's views.
Yeah. So for the openness, yeah, empathy, reduce the hours in working week. Yeah, that's the boundary, right? To keep the time boundary. Listen. Yeah, a lunchtime break is really important. How many people that squeeze your lunch break into some work meeting? Have you, yeah, Rich, did you do that?
You don't know. Maybe you had a one off today.
Yeah, make time to chat, regular check-in. Very good. Very good. Yeah, stop. Yeah. Breathe. Good. Compassion. Yeah, take mental health seriously. Very good. So if we see it as three levels of workplace, the first level is the prevention, like how we can do from the organization level to have that culture, no blaming mistakes, that culture, and to the manageable workload and also the psychological safety. That's the prevention level. And the second level is the early support and professional support, which you can get both of them from our Thrive.
Fantastic. Cool. So yeah, thank you for so many people engaging with the polls. I can see it's still going. Some great ideas. We had one comment about listening to our webinar whilst being out on a walk right now. So I think that's a nice thing. Changing your environment is a good one. Finding a lot of screen
Yeah.
time
Mhm.
is a good one just to create some distance. But we appreciate you dialing in even when you're out on the move. So we will move on and talk a little bit about now about what our service can do. So Penny's given you some great techniques that you can put in your toolkit, so to speak, from breathing, combining the breathing with the tapping, however which way works for you. But to use your sort of metaphor, you need to practice these things. It's all right knowing about them, but it's about practicing them in itself. So in our service, we refer to ourselves as a mental health service accessed through tech. We have an app. One of the ways that we were speaking about was cognitive reframing. I think it was the third of the techniques that you spoke about, Penny. Within our app, we have a full computerized cognitive behavioral therapy program. So it's about the relationship between our thoughts, emotions, behaviors, our bodily sensations. So a really nice way to sort of pick CBT up. Loads of research and evidence behind CBT. There are lots of different modalities, but there is a lot of research behind CBT. And sometimes reappraising those thoughts can help you reduce those stress, perhaps giving them less significance. It might be for you that, I don't know, presenting is one of those things where you think, oh my God, what's going to happen? Is this going to go okay? And then for me, I might remind myself, actually, I've done lots of these presentations. There's no reason. We've got a lovely audience. We've got great presenters. I'm sure the experience is going to go well. So there's a full CBT program that's available within the Thrive app if you have access to it. If you don't, we'd love to talk to you. And then in respect of managing symptoms, so we spoke about the breathing exercise there, the breathing in for 4, exhale for 6. We have a calm breathing exercise within the app. These are really short, bite-sized ways to, I guess, understand, embed the skill. We all know what breathing's about, but just practicing that in a rhythmic way for a couple of minutes each day can be really beneficial. In addition to that, we've just released a new module within the Thrive app, which is called Applied Relaxation, a really effective technique, evidence-based technique for alleviating signs of panic. But we have a deep muscle relaxation exercise within the app. So me personally, to sort of address stress, yes, there's the cognitive ways that you can think about things, but actually addressing that in a physical way in the body helps me initially. And then I'm in a better place to reappraise what's going on. So whether you're breathing, taking a step back, whatever it may be, pausing, giving yourself some time, deep muscle relaxation is about tensing individual muscle groups. So an example might be, I tense my right fist, my right arm. I focus on the sensation of what that feels like to be tense, and then relax that muscle group. So building an association between the notion of feeling tense versus relax. Really good one if you struggle with your sleep. You get this kind of pleasant heaviness after you've gone through the body, switching off the tension in the body. And then we have various meditation and mindful exercises. I guess your sort of attentional focus, where you're actually focusing, whether that's focusing some sensations on the breath, on the breathing, whether you're out for a walk, focusing on that sensation of your feet hitting the ground, maybe the color of the trees in spring, whatever it may be, trying to get yourself out of here with those kind of ruminating thoughts that have a tendency to occur when we're feeling very stressed. In addition to that, Penny's part of this team. So we have a therapy team at Thrive. For those customers that have access to our therapy service, it is a digitally enabled therapy service. We deliver all our support remotely, whether that's through chat or video. And we have a proactive way of leaning into the process of encouraging people to seek support. So part of it is about awareness, which Penny spoke about at the beginning. Where are we on this kind of scale? Do you actually know, in response to that question about how stressed? There was a lot of answers very quickly. So you have a good awareness and you're feeling that stress right now. But in our service, we basically have a series of questions that derive from the same questions that, you speak to somebody, perhaps a doctor or in the NHS, and we screen for anxiety and depression. And if we notice that an individual is struggling, we'll reach out to that individual. By and large, that's done in under 10 minutes. Some of these more traditional services tend to wait for you to lean into the process of seeking support. And we know from research that it's around 12 months that someone waits before they speak to anybody about a mental health challenge. So the quicker you can get on top of the problem, the better, like any health condition. And yeah, so if you do have access to our service, as a reminder that you can scan the QR code here, you would have an access code that is unique to your own organization. This is a B2B product predominantly. So if you aren't associated with either an employer, an insurer, a charity, an organization of some sort that's procured our services, unfortunately, you won't have access to the service. But predominantly the people we're talking to on this call are our clients. And if you're not a client yet, we'd love to speak to you about what we can do for you, how we help organizations like the ones that are on the call, and how we help ultimately individuals to have a better, improved life experience by getting them the treatment that they need, seeing them working on the challenges that they have, and seeing them through to recovery. So that about concludes the end of the talk. I just want to check to see what we've got going on in the chat, see if we can answer any of these questions or if there's anything that's popped up. So feel free, you've got a bit of space and time. We've got the Q&A and we've got the webinar chat if you wanted to drop any questions around that. There's quite a few around slides. Will we get the slides? I can see that Ella's answered that. Michelle, the answer to that is no, but we'd love to chat to you guys. And yeah, you'll get the video as well, right? That's right, I think, Ella. So yeah, we'll give it a couple of minutes to see if any people have any more additional questions. Don't be shy. Feel free to pop something in the chat or on the Q&A. And if not, we'll give everyone 5 minutes back before perhaps their next meeting.
I just want to wrap up like what's covered today. So first of all, it's normal, common to feel stressed and feel stressful, and it's not your fault. Yeah, and it does affect both well-being and performance, which is how our brain works as a human being. Yeah, so what we can do is just recognize those two signs and build up our awareness and use the tools, and as in leaders or organization level, create the psychological safe environment for your employees. And that's the key thing to do to ensure a good performance, collaboration environment, and teamwork.
Yeah, 100%. There's an individual responsibility, right? And there's an organizational responsibility.
Yeah. Everyone take your own responsibility, and don't overtake other people's responsibility. That's the boundary we need to set. Yeah.
Good advice. Okay, I don't think we've got any more questions per se. So thank you, everyone. Particularly thanks to Penny for joining on this webinar, giving us your expertise and thoughts on this topic, and for everyone that's contributed towards the session. We've got another webinar coming up, I think in mid-May, and we have a series of webinars through extended to the rest of the year. So if you're not signed up to those, get yourself involved, and hopefully you will have a good day and you can implement some of those strategies sooner rather than later if you are feeling a little stressed. And we'll be sending the recording. So take care, everyone.
Bye.